We are live. Awesome. Welcome, everybody, to another Divine Farmer Health podcast. I'm Jimmy Yin, the Acu Sensei. I got my partner, Chris McKee, nutritionist, on, and we have a guest that has been on our podcast, and we invited him back because he's got so much knowledge to share, Joe Elliot. And so I will let Chris take on the interview and just grill this guy.
Let's do it.
Yay. Well, we had a great response from the last one. So what I'd love for you to do, Joe, for those who didn't hear you the first time around, and by the way, any of our podcasts, you guys can go to YouTube, Divine Farmer Health YouTube. So if you want to listen to his first one, you can go back and listen to it because it was really good. So Joe, share with us a little bit about what your business is, what you do, and how you help people move forward in their life.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me back, guys. Love what you're doing. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so at its core, mentoring in America is broken. There's no mentors for teens. We're trying to fix that, right? We've somewhere along the way, we've lost the art of mentoring. How do we guide ourselves well and then others, right? And we can't really offer anything to anybody else and learn until we can learn how to guide ourselves well. So we created something called the Purpose Project that helps individuals quickly get to the core of how they're uniquely wired, showing them a path forward. How do you actually accomplish all the things that you hope to accomplish, right? Or if you don't even know what you want to do, how do you find clarity as to how you're uniquely made and what to do with it? That's what we do. We unlock people's potential and we teach people how to do it for others.
Wow, that we talked about this last time. The power of that for, like you said, teens is huge because so many people, and I'm sure you see this, people get out of even go to college, like we talked about, go to college, get a degree, and then realize that I don't really like what I'm doing. Yeah. So, but being younger, being a junior in high school, senior in high school, and trying to figure out, like you said, how am I uniquely made? What are my gifts and talents, and how can I take that into the marketplace? And, obviously provide an income, but just be satisfied and happy about what they are doing. That's huge.
Yes.
Huge. So
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure, do you see midlife, like people come to you or like, okay, I've been doing this. Like I have a client I'm thinking of right now.
Mm-hmm.
She's finishing off 20 years in teaching. She's hated it for the last 7 or 8, only because she needed 20 years for retirement. And now she's not that old. She's in her early 50s looking for what else can I do now? Do you see that at all?
Yes, we work with people all across the board. Although our primary focus is the next generation. Yes. I mean, it feels like every 10 years, it's normal for us as adults to have an existential crisis of like, what am I doing with my life? Like, but the problem is that none of us have a solution to knowing how to handle that exactly. And that's why we step in and say, okay, let's have some conversations. We can help you get to the bottom of it quicker. But it really doesn't matter whether it's age or even wealth or status or success. I literally took my first billionaire through the Purpose Project in the last year because it's no amount of fame or money can equate to, am I happy? Right. Yeah. And that's what we're all searching for, whether it's being healthy, because that's going to lead to happiness at the end of the day. We're striving for something more.
Yeah. And definitely, Jimmy, and what Jimmy and I do, we discuss this a lot. And I know, Jimmy, you do with your clients, and I know with my clients is you dive into that a lot, right? What is your work? Are you satisfied? Do you come home from work exhausted and hate getting up in the morning and go to work again? That impacts your health in a huge way. So, this is a full picture here of what people really in their lifetime have to deal with. So you have some 5 bulletproof strategies on how to achieve your goals. So let's dive into this a little bit and give people an outline. And then before we even dive into this, I want people to know we will put the link in here for the Purpose Project guide. So a lot of what you're talking about, there's a guide that you can download. Yes. And that's cool. That's a really cool thing you're offering. So let's dive into the create SMART goals. Let's do that.
Yeah, I'll preface this by saying, on the last podcast, we kind of dove into what does it mean to really understand your unique design.
Yeah.
So assuming you get to a point of clarity, you know what you're going after, there's still the art of execution. I mean, if you ever ask yourself, like, how do successful people become successful? Well, there's certain things that they've learned to do. They weren't just born with this stuff. They learned how to apply it. And so these 5 bullet point strategies really highlight the core of that. And here's the first one. You've heard of this before, but whether you've done it or not is a different story. And that is, like, successful people create SMART goals. And so when you think of that in terms of your health, let's just say you're at a place where you're like, you know, I'm always learning how to be healthier. I want to be healthy. Well, the S in SMART goals stands for specific. And being healthy isn't very specific, right? It can mean a ton of different things. And so it boggles my mind how many college graduates we release into the world every year that really still don't know how to set goals, right? So the SMART format, the S stands for specific. We got to narrow it down and not have something that's too broad, right? If you're trying to eliminate pain in a certain area, that's specific. If you're trying to lose weight, that's a little bit more specific, but you got to hone that down. It can't be too broad. And then it's got to be measurable, right? How much weight do you want to lose, or how much, like, if, you know, for me, like, I have a lot of back pain at night, right? So part of that would be, okay, it's interrupting my sleep. Therefore, I'm not getting those REM cycles like I need to. Therefore, I'm waking up a little bit more tired, a little bit more groggy. It's impacting what I do. I need to get deeper sleep. So what goals, specific and measurable goals, can I put in place in order to track that, right? And if you can maybe hit goals if you don't think at this level, but if you want to be really successful and ensure that you attain the things you're going after, that's the first 2, specific, measurable. Then the rest of it is very self-explanatory. It's got to be attainable. Don't tell yourself you're going to lose 100 pounds in the next month, right? It's got to be relevant to what you're doing and your goals. And here's a big one. Here's where I think a lot of people miss. Timely, right? The time you give yourself to complete the goal matters. There's a reason why New Year's resolutions don't work, right? I mean, how many of us set those and are like, in January, I'm going to hit that gym or whatever I'm going to do. And then we don't do anything about it because it's like, oh, well, I got the whole year. I don't have to start right now. Too big a timetable. I like it in that it gives you a vision of where you want to head. But the world we live in, every corporation runs on quarterly goals, 3-month cycles, right? And they have to report to the world how they did. And quarterly goals work for a variety of reasons, because it's enough time to give you flexibility, but it's short enough to create a sense of urgency. So I would think, especially with any health goals, I would start making quarterly goals. But you put all that together, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely, in relation to what you want to achieve, that's the first bulletproof strategy that should be in place.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And you know, especially we have different programs, right? We have 10-day ones, and then we move people into a longer one, which is 28 days, hoping that they'll keep going from 10 to 28. And Jimmy and I talked to people about this as well. It's like, you know, the 10-day was just a jump start. It was just to get your brain and your mind wrapped around this idea that, let's say you need to lose 30 pounds or whatever. How am I going to do that? And what's that look like? So absolutely. I think the quarterly I love, because I work with clients at a more VIP level, and that, you know, we look at a long-term plan like that. We're going out months, because some things take longer, right? I mean, in our world, especially with health, we always tell them, you know, you're not going to come in for 10 days and all of a sudden all your pain's gone and you've lost 90 pounds, and, you know, but realistically, for people, especially changing, I would think, jobs or changing careers, that's a more of a long, like, what can I accomplish in 3 months? But what is my long-term goal? Maybe in a year, I completely am out of this job and into a different job.
Right.
So you
Right.
help people plan that out. You help people kind of figure that out, those steps along the way.
Yes, most of our strategy when it comes, especially if we're looking to change careers,
Yeah.
a lot of our strategy is like hope. We hope something drops into our lap, right? And we all know hope's not a strategy, right? So what you have to do is you have to set learning goals or exploration goals, right? So if you have, 3 free hours a week, in those 3 hours, how many people are you going to talk to, network, or new things you're going to explore? Right? If you have a hunch for something, you've got to scratch that itch by looking into it. Like, for a number of years, I didn't, I always thought about, oh, maybe I should get into investing or learn how to invest, but I never created time to even explore it, much less even read a book about it. So my first 3-month learning goals were, I'm going to read 2 books on investing, and I'm going to talk to 3 people that actually do what I want to do. And it just creates momentum and movement. And it wasn't until that second quarter that I found something that I really loved that I ended up adopting and using. But it starts with exploration, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have any thoughts
Yeah.
on that, Jamie?
Let me unmute myself first. Yeah, I would say the, what is that saying? How do you eat an elephant or something like that? One bite at a time. And
Yep.
it's just setting these, whether it's quarterly, whether like in our programs, we have 28 days, 12 days, 10 days, 7 days. It doesn't, it doesn't matter how many, but just setting those shorter days, it gives you a target to hit. And then when you can hit a target, that gains momentum, right?
Yep.
You hit one small target, then you go to another target and you hit it again. You start gaining momentum. And more importantly, you start gaining confidence in yourself. And
Yep.
when you gain that confidence in yourself, nothing can stop you.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's what this is about, right? You've got to create that momentum and start somewhere. And as anybody that's an entrepreneur knows, getting started is the hardest part. You just got to get to that start to get going. But then, then the second strategy that's really bulletproof is obviously who you have around you really matters. Building the right team that's going to help you achieve your goals is important. And we can, I think here's one issue that we don't often think about. When we go after something, especially if it's health related, we're treating it like a solo sport. But even if you grew up, running track or cross country or tennis, that you didn't develop alone. You had other people around you. So the question is, who is it that you're looking for in order to support you in your pursuits? And so to that answer, we have 4 types of people that you would really want to add to your team in order to ensure your success. And I'll just describe them real quickly and we can talk about them. But number 1 is an expert in a field, right? So if you're like, for example, like, okay, you know what? I think I've tried a lot of things, but I've never tried acupuncture before, right? You need an expert in that field that you can lean in and talk to and at least start to ask questions. If it's starting a business, you need somebody that started a business before, and you need to tell them what you're trying to achieve and what you're doing, and invite them to say, hey, would you be willing to work with me? Connect a few times a month and help give me advice. That's what an expert does, right? An expert in the field you're trying to pursue or goal you're trying to accomplish. And then there's those, I call them cheerleaders. Like, everybody knows those people that no matter what idea you bring to them, they're going to be like, that's so amazing. Go for it. You got it. And they may not have a clue what you're trying to achieve, but their optimism is key, right? Because it's like, you need those voices in your life, because anytime you pursue something that's challenging, there's going to be setbacks. You're going to be discouraged, and you're going to need that person to lean in on and say, hey man, I've had a bad week, and that person to come alongside you and be like, hey, that's all right. Bad weeks happen. Let's get back on and do it. So those cheerleaders are people that we're looking for to share our goals with and say, hey, would you support me on this journey? And then there's admins. For those of us that are absolutely terrible at like organization and getting things done, you're looking for those people in your world that are just task ninjas, right? They can just get anything done. You're like, oh, I've got to reapply to get my license, and I've just been delaying how long, because I don't want to look it up and figure out the process. You need those admins in your life, and then you need my favorite, like networkers, or I call them like mafia people. Like people in the mafia have connections to everybody, right? You know these people. They know everybody. And for some reason, they have a gazillion followers on Facebook and Instagram. Those are the people you want around you, because when you come to them with a problem, their real Rolodex in their mind is like, I've got 8 people I'm going to introduce you to in the next hour. And so if you start to set yourself, look for those people, know the role they're going to play in helping you succeed, and invite them to join you in the journey, not everyone will say yes, but most of them will eventually. And now you're solidifying your strategy, right? That's a big aspect to what I'm talking about.
I love that. When we moved to Georgetown 17 years ago, I think it is, which is north of Austin, for those of you who don't know what Georgetown is, but I knew no one except my daughter. And here I am, independent, nutritionist, trying to build a clientele. And I would drive into Austin twice a week for networking events. There was businesswomen networking events down there that I would go to, and then one in Williamson County, which was in Round Rock. And so I networked for years. I'd say 2 or 3 years. And the people that I met, these women that I met, some guys too, but mostly women, were what really launched my business in the area, because at that point we weren't doing virtual appointments so much. So I was working out of an office in Georgetown, but people would drive from Austin to Georgetown. So those people, I still, beautiful souls that I've met, I still have contact with them and connections with them. And at any moment I could pick up the phone. I can think of 2 or 3 right off the top of my head that have been very successful businesswomen in the Austin area. So I think for people who are moving into a new area, you got to put in the work. You got to network. And Jimmy, you're fantastic at this. You are you're out in the community all the time, obviously, because you have a brick and mortar business. So I think what you're saying about a team is really crucial. And you have to, if you're new to the area, or you're new to a business, or you're new to a career, you have to get out and work and network with people that are in that field, and find out who's out there. And I love that. I love building your team. That it's really important, I think, now, especially as we do so much virtual work.
Yeah.
You have to build a team, obviously.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, Jimmy?
Yeah, it actually reminded me of, I'm probably going to butcher this example, but it's you're definitely, what do they say, the sum of the 5 people you hang around. So
Yes.
you're going to become the people you hang around. So that's why having your team is the people you hang around.
Mm-hmm.
And so it reminds me of the story when you walk into a room and, let's say, somebody farted, right? It stinks. And your initial walking in the room, you're like, man, what? And you see this room filled with people. You're like, how can these people stay in here? It stinks in here, right? And then you stay in there long enough, then you start getting used to that fart, right? And you start getting accustomed to it. And you're like, yeah, that's not that bad. So the point of that is that if you hang around the wrong people, you have the wrong people around you, you're going to get used to it. You're going to get used to, not hitting your targets. You're going to get used to not setting goals. You're going to get used to living a mediocre life when you can live a phenomenal life. You're going to get used to, maybe you thought something wasn't sinful, and then because you're around people that are doing that sin all the time, you're going to get used to, oh, man, that's okay. So you're going to get used to excuses. But on the flip side, you surround yourself with the right team that are always pushing you, that are always there to support you. And supporting you is not just to be nice. Supporting you is to call you out, confront you on your excuses, right? But they want to keep on moving you forward. You have that team around you. Again, there is no way you're not going to succeed. So the right team is vital.
I don't know about everybody else listening right now, but like I didn't hear a lot of what you just said because I'm just thinking about the brilliance of that fart analogy. Like, where's that been, man? I work with teens for 23 years. I promise you, Jimmy, every lecture I give now on is going to have that fart analogy in it. You are going to help me change lives in America because of that, dude. That's brilliant.
Teens can totally relate to that one. They'll love it.
You remember those little those things that you put in people's chairs that
Oh
fart?
yeah.
You know, you need one of those. Whoopee cushions. Yeah. You need one of those.
Oh my gosh, genius, man. All right, so here's my third bulletproof tip. Again, this is all going to be in the booklet you guys can download for free on the website. It's purposepro.org /workshops. So you'll probably see that in the notes and whatnot. But the third strategy is really creating a motivational strategy. And we alluded to this in the first interview that we did, right? We talked about one of the things that we look at is motivational patterns. There's a book out there called What Motivates Me by Adrian Gostick. And they outline 23 common motivators that we all have as humans. Could be things like, money or developing others or empathy or impact or, autonomy. There's all kinds of different things that really inspire us to show up, bring our best and whatnot. So identifying that within yourself is key, knowing what drives you to achieve your goals. But then there's tactics that we like to encourage people to do that give you that help fuel the engine, right? One of those could be journaling. If you're into journaling is a great way to look back on where you started and where you were, to be like, you know what, I have grown, I have accomplished. Tracking your progress, can be really effective for some people, but I know not everybody's like a, amazing journalist or has the discipline to do that. So here's my next one that I really love. Creating, like, you may have heard of vision boards. Well, I call them like vision walls, right? In your house, somewhere in your house, if you can, or your bedroom, if you can create a wall that, like graphically depicts the things that you're going after. I'll give you a great example of this. Like, I met a homeless guy in California one time who was selling cardboard homeless signs that he had created, right? And they all had these funny sayings. And one of them said, "I bet you can't hit me with a quarter." Like, I was like, this is genius. And so I paid him $20 for that cardboard sign, right? And I walked away with, I love that no matter where we're at in life, we've been designed with some element of creativity. And that creativity is really, it's one of my values. It's important to me. And so that homeless sign is actually on my vision wall. And every time I look at it, I think there's always a way forward. There's always a way to get past the obstacle that we're thinking of. And so whether those are movie posters or quotes or sayings or books from people you admire, like creating that vision wall and having it be something that you look at every day is key. And then this one might sound weird, but calculating regret is something that I do. And you think, well, how do you calculate regret? Well, like, we all have ideas of things that we want to do. So what I do is I take everything that I want to accomplish and I just ask myself, I write it down first and foremost, but then I look at it and say, if I don't do this, will I regret it? And to be honest with you, there's some things that are like, meh, it could be like, if I don't lose 5 pounds this month, will I regret it? Meh, but there's other things where it's like, if I don't accomplish this, am I going to spend the rest of my life regretting not going after it? And if the answer is yes, then that's got to be a thing, because we're all going to live with regret to some degree, but I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to acquire regret. I'm not trying, I'm trying to limit my regret in life by looking at, am I pursuing the things that matter to me most? And that's a simple question I could ask myself. But some combination of stuff like that helps formulate my motivational strategy to keep going when it's hard.
Jim Rohn. I'm sure all
Oh,
those
yes.
are to Jim Rohn.
Yes.
I must have listened to a bazillion CDs. They were going all the time. And one of his great quotes is regret weighs tons, but discipline weighs ounces. Boy,
Yes.
I remember the first time I heard that was like, wow,
Yes.
wow. So I think that's a great, it may, I don't, you said it may be weird, but I don't think it's weird at all. I think you have to ask yourself that question,
Yeah. Yeah.
because nothing weighs heavier than regret, when you knew you could have done something had you been disciplined or set a plan or set a goal. So I think that's a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. These fourth and fifth ones I'll just share real quick because they're in the book. And you are in the booklet you can download. But they're tactical strategies that you'll see a lot in business. And Jimmy, I know you're familiar with some of these. But a SWOT analysis, analyzing your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A lot of businesses do that for their company, but we teach people how to do it for themselves, a personal SWOT analysis. So you look at your goal, what you're trying to achieve, and then you measure what are the strengths that are within me that are going to help me accomplish this goal? What are the weaknesses I have that I might need to get help with or support from a team with, because I'm not going to be good in this area? What are the biggest opportunities I have in relation to this goal? And what are the threats? What are the things that could just take me out altogether, right? And so like with mental health being such an issue that it is, if, like, for example, if you're somebody who battles with depression, and you know that there's just some days you just struggle to get out of bed, that's a threat. That's a threat to any goal that you have. And so what we can do is we can adjust our strategy and goals to say, hey, you know what? My willingness to get support and tackle my depression head on is going to have a direct correlation to all the goals that I want to achieve. And so I can plan for that. So it's a strategy type thing. And then the last one is like managing your time using an urgent important matrix, which is something Dwight Eisenhower did a long time ago, because he realized not everything in our life is urgent and important. So we need to have a way to be able to measure where our time goes and put certain activities in certain buckets in order to free up the time that we need to pursue what we want to pursue. So the combination of these 5 strategies together, there's just no way you're not going to see improvement in your goals if you're doing these things. And so, yeah.
Wow, those are fantastic. I love it. I think that, like you said, no one is teaching our teens this. I don't hear it anywhere. The one thing I'm always like appalled by, and still am, was my high school boyfriend. He was out of high school. I was a senior. He taught me how to balance a checkbook. My parents didn't teach me. No teachers taught me anything about finances or money or anything. It was a high school boyfriend taught me how to do that. I mean, let alone now we get nothing, and no one's doing this with kids. I can guarantee you that. Too bad they don't have like a quarter semester or half a semester on this. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
to teach somebody when they're younger how to do this and to be able to tackle a goal like using this is fabulous. Would you do me, can you type in the chat? Can you do that or not? Can you type in your website with the link you said to go over to download the Purpose Project Guide?
We have it, Chris.
Oh,
We
you
already,
do? Okay,
Hez
got it.
has
Okay,
already posted on Facebook.
awesome. Yeah, so we need to put.
I have a question for Joe. So this is like an online, can you help people online through online virtual, or does it have to be in person?
Absolutely. No, 80% of what we do is virtual. So we do virtual sessions. Okay. Our mentors connect virtually. You can learn to do this. I can train you on how to do this for others virtually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
okay, great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So because our audience is international, so if it's online virtually, that's even better. And so there's like so what I'm hearing is there's a DIY, you can do it yourself, And then if you need more help, then you've got mentors to help facilitate that. And
Absolutely.
so, okay, great. And my next question is, I know it's for students, it's for adults, but which age group is the Purpose Project first focused on? What is your niche right now?
Yeah. Well, the people who need it most right now are young people, because, you know, as you're saying, Chris, they're not getting this in school or college. You can get a master's degree and not have some of these basics in place, which is why everybody's struggling in their careers, right? They didn't know how to align themselves to begin with. So I'd say the younger generation, teens and young adults, is who we're trying to target and reach. But, you know, the cool thing about this is, you know, 30% of all adults who experience this for themselves end up becoming mentors, because they're like, oh my God, I wish I would have had this as a teen, right? So that's why we reach both markets.
Okay, great. So what I hear is, if you've got teens, if you've got kids, you got college students, college kids, you know, if they're interested in looking for something like this, obviously have them sign up. But parents, if you got kids, you know, it's what I'm hearing is from Joe is that, hey, learn it for yourself first. If not for your own life, for your own personal life, or you can learn it so that you can help mentor your kids. Because I don't know about you, when I was a kid, I would not think about doing any of this. And if someone told me, hey, yeah, let's get you more focused, I'd be like, okay, whatever. But if it was somebody else that I trust that say, hey, you know, this is something that I've done and you're interested, then I would be more likely to dive into something like this.
Yeah, 100%. And parents, you might be surprised at some of the answers your students give to some of our questions, or some of your kiddos give, and you'll have access to all of that, right? So, you know, we're not counselors, you know, we're mentors, and we want you to be a part of the process with us. So these are powerful conversations that really bring clarity to your son or daughter's future.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Wow.
Great.
Well, thank you so much again for spending another half hour with us. And the first one was fantastic. This was even better. So again, if you haven't seen the first one we did with Joe and I, then go to YouTube and to our Divine Farmer Health podcast, and you can watch the first half hour. And this was very strategic this time. So I think that what you're offering people is fabulous to be able to download that project guide and just dive into it and just really think about, you know, further, especially if you have kids, or like I have grandkids, and I had mentioned my grandson last time, you know, a junior this year in high school, and totally doesn't have a clue what he wants to do. So those kinds of things are really helpful as a grandparent. He may listen to me when he wouldn't listen to maybe his mom and dad. So I think you're right, Jimmy. It's like when you're that age, you're kind of like, you know, but when someone else comes along, it's a lot more powerful, I think. So again, thank you so much for spending time with us
Thank you, Joe.
today.
Thank you, guys. Love it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. We'll see y'all next week. Same time, same bat channel, same bat time.
Bye.